What was your parents' biggest mistake in raising you? They cared but not about the right things. They took the easy way out with me. I was reprimanded but not taught. Zero communication. They let their fear of dealing with their own trauma turn into causing and ignoring mine. The way they used to communicate through me because they wouldn't speak to each other after they separate. When I had to deliver a message from one parent that the other one didn't like, I was the one who was yelled at, and both of them asked me to side with them instead of the other. There was no way to win, because I always either made mommy sad or daddy sad. Good times. Violently screaming at me for bad grades or poor performance in sports. I think it had the opposite effect where I became afraid of making any mistakes, which would lead to more mistakes. Feel like if your kid is underperforming in any way, there's a way to talk to them without making them feel stupid for fucking up. There are better ways to motivate them. Taught me nothing about nutrition, let me eat junk, and made excuses for my obesity. Took me 10 years as an adult to finally take responsibility for myself and shed the weight. Well, my dad's fucking great, but my mother, constant screaming for everything, depriving me of any and all food a lot of the time, punishment for things someone else did, invasion of privacy, not giving a fuck about my mental health, not giving up custody to my dad, constantly degrading me. My mother did an excellent job while she was still on Earth. The problems started when she died and my dad chose cocaine and a new family over his own children. I too sheltered. I will definitely shelter my kids to an extent and raise them right, but my parents took it to the extreme. I was only allowed to play with religious children and wasn't allowed to watch movies besides basically Disney movies until I was in high school. This led to a pretty rebellious phase when I was around 15 that I think could have been avoided if my parents weren't so strict. Due to them giving me insane social anxiety, I now have the social skills of the new kid in elementary school. I can't hold a conversation for more than 5 minutes without making people uncomfortable. I have proceeded to lose all of my friends due to this and am now sad and lonely. Never admitting that they did something wrong. An example is that when I was in 2nd grade my mom would literally yell and scold me because she thought that have was spelled HAV, and that also confused me with the word had. Even though at school the teachers and everyone else spelled have, when I got home she would scold me for spelling it correctly until I told her that that's how everyone else spelled it. She just looked at the paper and never said a word about it again. So now I always think that whatever I'm doing is wrong, or if something did go wrong and was clearly out of my control I'll still get nervous. The total lack of boundaries based on the belief that they had raised us to be responsible and smart, even though clear evidence were present that we were not. Keeping me/us honestly, it would have been nice to hear they were proud of me just once, don't want to overdo it. Sheltering, trying to protect us from everything, so once we got older we had to learn how to communicate and have relationships with people who already knew how to do all those things. Really messed my brother and I up mentally, and I feel guilty for resenting my parents. Expecting me to have the same grades, activities, and social lives as my older siblings. Complete apathy. My parents basically never got involved in me or my siblings' lives. Never attended things like school plays or parents' evenings, never cared about how things were going or what was going on. So long as we didn't get into trouble and didn't cause them problems they didn't care and took no interest. Anything for peace and quiet, as my mother frequently said. As such, because they never tried to be a part of my life, they effectively aren't a part of my life anymore. We only speak out of obligation, and not very often at that. My mom never stood up for herself or us, and let our father scream at us and take his anger out on us. She's still with him and won't apologize for letting him mistreat us. Giving me no privacy. My parents snooped way too much. Searching my clothes drawers for hidden things, checking my phone, eavesdropping on my conversations, talking about my private life to their friends as if it was hot gossip, spying me when I was out, asking their friends to report in if they ever saw me out and around, checking my mail, checking the computer history every time I used it, listening to my CDs to check they were appropriate, arranging additional meetings with my teachers to ask about me, asking me personal questions all the time. Basically not giving me any space to just be me. They also made a lot of jokes about me to other people, right in front of my face. I often felt like I was their pet more than an actual human. I'm now deeply self-conscious and suspicious as a result. I always have this feeling that people are watching and judging me, ladling out too much guilt and shame. They are not motivational forces for me to be better. In fact, quite the opposite was true, also telling me that I wasn't good at math. Sure, it wasn't my strongest subject. But don't tell a kid that they will never ever succeed at a subject due to some inherent shortcomings. Playing favorites. My brother was allowed to grow marijuana as an experiment by my very straight-laced and anti-drug parents. In fact, they were enthusiastically supportive. Not so much for me. That's just one example. Basically, he could have pissed in my face and out folks would have blamed me. They always made me feel like I was inadequate because I wasn't like him. My brother is a classic grandiose narcissist. My mom always meant well, but I have body dysmorphia for life. I'm sharing because if any parents are reading this, you should be diligent about how you talk about your body in front of your kids. Don't talk about needing to lose or gain weight unless it's for health reasons. Don't put yourself down about how you look in front of your kids. This creates doubt and body image issues from the jump, and that sticks with you forever. Never teaching me to be independent. My guardian was obsessed with keeping me way too close, and I was always sheltered, and now I'm alone and don't know how to function. Leaving me to my own devices so long as my grades were good. Not teaching me much of anything outside of knowing right from wrong. Outside of being kept alive, pretty much raised myself. Sheltering me. They taught me to always put others before myself, and I did this to the point of not knowing when to back out of toxic relationships. I think they were so afraid I was going to turn into a spoiled brat that they continued to humble me, even to the point of my detriment in front of my then friends. I'm in my 20s now and have learned to look for the red flags, but it took a lot of getting walked all over in both platonic and romantic relationships.